Let's begin with Dima Al-Yahya. And what I want to talk about first, Dima, is how technology is changing women's experience and liberating women here and around the world. How do you see that?
Well, thank you, Keir, for that. Technology, at the end of the day, is an enabler. We are in now a time where disrupting the business modules is the way to realize the economical and social impact. And technology is only a mean and tool to do that. Now, we have certain problems that we are facing in our work life, in our daily personal life. Now, that's where the innovation starts and finding the solutions. So technology will enable females to find solutions for their problems and everyday challenges that they are facing. For instance, connectivity and connecting to the world. That will increase their knowledge and ability to actually create their own jobs and create opportunities not for themselves but for others as well. Technology will enable them to increase their productivity, especially when they took on sacrifices in their lives, in their personal lives, in working from home and working remotely as well. Also, I want to shed a light on a story, for instance, that women take 8 hours to go and take an ultrasound in China. Now, because of that problem, a group of females came up with a solution which is like a mouse, and it has some sensors that they can actually do the ultrasound at home rather than going to a doctor. So because of that problem, they use technology to solve that solution.
Terrific. So, Nufal Rakan, are we saying then that one of the advantages of liberating and empowering women is that although the technology is changing, when you have women's perspective, they can come up with solutions to issues that perhaps men just do not see?
That's a difficult question. I think what technology did for a lot of women, it increased their participation in the labor market. And that is on its own is a big improvement. And the Saudi government realized that a lot of women, especially in the remote area, will really have problems in women employment. That the only way is to include women is to include them in the e-labor market. And they've already, I think maybe even if you ask Dima, they're already working on different initiatives to include them in the labor market through e-platforms, working mothers from home, doing part-time jobs to increase their participation in the labor market. If it's different between men and women, I think it furnishes the same, especially with the new generation. It's the same across the board, especially at younger generations. When we try to find business opportunities for women outside, for example, Riyadh area, we push them to create their own platforms, network platforms, e-platforms, to increase their participation in the economy. I think also trying to find these markets that women actually can increase their participation, that you can utilize their abilities and without having to push them to go outside their homes, especially that we have an issue in mobility, women and mobility. Of course, lifting the ban on driving helps a lot, but still there's a huge portion of the women are not interested in driving, especially that men drive very well. And the other part, there are women cannot actually afford to drive. They cannot afford to buy cars. So technology plays a great role in women empowerment.
And someone told me a story yesterday which I thought was exciting and fascinating, which was that when the announcement was made that women would be allowed to drive, on Twitter, that's where many people learnt about it. And that people were celebrating on Twitter, and that men in Saudi Arabia were congratulating women on Twitter for this new right that they will now rightfully get.
Well, I got the first time I knew about it, actually, I got an SMS from my father. congratulating me. So that was.
What was your reaction?
My reaction, I couldn't believe it at the beginning. I knew it was coming, but I just landed outside, I was outside Saudi Arabia, and I was waiting in line to stamp my passport, and I think I was jumping out of joy, and people around me were like, what's happening? So it was an undescribable moment.
Okay. Sabrina Pastersky, talk for us, if you can, about how technology looks in the future and how women will benefit, frankly, how all people will benefit from the technological changes, the fourth industrial revolution that we're seeing that is moving so fast.
Well, for me personally, because I'm in academia, I get really excited when I see a lot of lecture videos just posted on YouTube, so you can basically attend all of these different classes that are offered around the world, and also lectures without having to necessarily be enrolled in that program, or just be at home and have access to this material, so that if you have the time and you're going to spend it studying, which is what I do as a grad student, everything's right there. And that's really changed rapidly. I don't know, like the way that you can have just so much more material online, I definitely didn't have when I was little. So it kind of changes the game, I think, for more people in the future. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. And what is, can you see, give us the vision of the future in technology. How is it changing people's lives? How is it changing our societies?
I mean, I'm the type where my experiences is like I have a flip phone still, so I don't really know exactly where things are going to go as far as personal tech, because I think that that's probably the most likely to change rapidly in the short term. But as far as like what I've experienced, it's mostly just like this access to content, what you can learn, what you can study, just in physics. But who knows?
Access to content and access to each other.
That too, yes. As far as it's difficult to just passively like learn on your own, but a kind of a first step is to have basically the material available to you, regardless of being at a great university or what.
Yeah. Okay. Sandy Same Thane, you are working in Myanmar and connecting people there. Give us the picture from there about how technology is changing women's lives.
Yeah, so first of all, Myanmar is, we are in Southeast Asia, it's one of the developing countries, and we can say like we are in the very early stage of digitalization, because we just started using all these mobile technology from 2012 very widely. And the country is opening up and is growing so fast. So we are very curious, very happy about all these tools called technology. So how, I mean, on the other note, it's like we have a lot of positive changes that bring into the people's lives, especially for women, because the first thing is the access of information. We used to be very close society and community, but once the technology came in, and we have a lot of access to information, data, and also education. And plus, not only for cities area, in the rural area, the people, they have a lot of benefit like doing business or online business, and also payment online and things like that. So we have a lot of positive expression on technology that is coming in our country recently.
Yeah, and can you give us a story, an anecdote of particular technology that is transforming things there?
Yeah, so especially in the infrastructure and also finance. So because I mean, before we are really getting behind, it might be old-fashioned to you, actually, in my country. It's like, so once the Uber came in, we are very excited, because Uber just came in, launches in Myanmar in 2017 this year. So we are very excited, and also that bring like city solution to us. So we didn't have a proper transformation system and things like that, and you know, those sharing cup is like something new to us, but it's something affordable, and also like more like making life easier. So there are a lot of examples like how to say, transferring money from the mobile. So we have a lot of farmers in my country because we are agricultural country. So for them, it's like to know a lot of the trading rate and rice price and things like that. So they can access the information through the internet and or the gold price. So that brings the economic growth to the technology is.
Yeah, we were talking, and I want to move on to, I think, an interesting question. We were talking about what you're trying to do, which is to make sure that technology reaches women, not just in cities, but in rural areas, in villages across your country. And I think there's an important conversation to have about the connection between women's issues and class and culture and nationhood and the differences, and not just assuming that it's a one-size-fits-all solution for all women around the world, but at the same time not losing touch with the fundamental and important thing of women's equality, that all people are equal, and that women should be empowered. So talk a bit about how you are trying to ensure that everybody in Myanmar benefits, no matter where they live or what class they belong to.
Okay, so in terms of culture aspects, we have a lot of gender gap and also gender discrimination. Also in in technology, because in my parents' time, when we have something technical radio or phone, most only father and brother use it, not for the girls in the family. So once it's opening up, the technology is widely used. Women are more, they are more empowered, and they have a lot of job opportunities, and also they can sell things online, and they do business at home. So, and also the women from rural area, they are really connected to the world too. Not the information that we have given, on the newspapers. Most the information globally, and also they know what's happening in the world too. So, and also they have a lot of opportunities from the cities, they apply the jobs, and more they are connected widely. So that's a benefit of the technology happening for the women area.
Dima, can you talk about how you see women's empowerment in the Saudi context? Where is it important to recognize that it's the same for all, and where is it different? Where does it need to be different here?
Well, actually, I see that we have to start with the female herself and the women themselves. Now, successful women, and that's a study, that successful women in a male-dominant workplace always tend to feel that they are vulnerable, under-listened, under-utilized, and also underestimated. The thing is that from my experience, I see smart and talented females, they have a bigger obstacle to overcome, which is believing in themselves and believing in their abilities. And when we see men, on the other hand, we see them, they are more risk takers, they're more bold, attentive, and also we find that 60% of males, they apply to jobs even if they are not fully, or if they have 60% qualify for these jobs. Females tend to not apply for a job if she is not 100% qualified for that job.
Why is that?
That's the way, if we go back in the way that it's psychological and how females or girls and boys have been taught and raised. So we see that girls look at abilities as is if either she has that skill or she doesn't have it, or she doesn't have that skill. Boys, on the other hand, they look at it as a development. So they look at the effort and the time and the work that they put in any job that they do develops that ability. So we judge ourselves as females not only harshly, but fundamentally different than how men judge themselves. Now, what we really have to do is that no matter what the ability is, or no matter what the skill is, we really have to believe that it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to fail, and it's okay to embrace the intelligence that you have and the beauty and the culture that you believe in. I remember the first time that I entered a boardroom with quite some ministers, and I was very intimidated. Should I raise my opinion? Should I talk about my vision and how I think of how Saudi Vision 2030 should look like, and how are we going when it comes to digitization? I was shivering to death from fear that my opinion is not the right opinion. But when I raised it, it didn't matter if it was right or wrong. It was the quality of the opinion and the quality of the people listening to my opinion. So my message here is, you become what you believe. And that's something that we really have to believe in, that you become what you believe. And I know that all the room here are examples of that.
Is that what, Sabrina, why don't you just take it from there? Because I love about you that, well, we all know that you are incredible, but you want to simply be called a physics grad student. So I know that you like to be presented that way, but you are the embodiment of a powerful, smart, empowered female.
I'm definitely empowered. The question is, see, I mean, I'm a girl in theoretical physics, and I don't know, maybe the numbers are such that it looks like it's rare, but I wouldn't know what it's like to be a guy in the same position, so I can only judge based on my own experience. If anything, it's always, to me, it always just scares me a little bit when we try to say that, oh, women think this way, men think this way. Like, how much of that can we actually assess? We don't really know what anybody else thinks. We know what we feel if we have doubts about ourselves. And perhaps there's a little bit more, some people seem way more confident than they deserve to be. And maybe that's a good thing, but maybe, I believe more, to be critical of yourself is fine, but to be hopeful about what you can do when you put the effort in is kind of what I see as something that guides me. But I tend to go against like saying that women think differently or are more like afraid of applying for something. I mean, even if there's a difference when it's statistics, I guess, but I mean, personally as a woman, I feel no like disadvantage, just like everybody else.
Yeah. Is it in working in physics? Is there still a challenge in terms of that? Is that still a male-dominated arena, or is it not so much anymore?
I think the challenges are much more beyond what anybody else is doing. Perhaps when you get to the level of, it's not just going to be you just isolated and learning what you need to learn. You also need to like interact with people. So depending on who you interact with, perhaps some people have had experiences where it might be easier if you're just one of the gang and they're not worried about their girlfriend being upset that they're going to dinner with you to talk about physics. Like that's the level at which maybe it's not as good to be in a minorities. But otherwise, it all comes down to just like what you end up putting in paper, and it's not so much like your gender that comes in the way, especially when it's just studying. I feel.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting to hear you talk, and I guess I think it's really important too for us to say plainly that it's not the case that women's empowerment in America and Europe is perfect, or that is all done, if you like. And I think the recent sex scandals in America and Europe are an illustration of the fact that there are still huge challenges for women in what they call the West, if you like. So, Uf, can you address that question of what does women's empowerment mean in the context of Saudi Arabia?
First of all, I'd like to salute women. Really, I mean, we were just talking in the backstage yesterday. It was 3/4 men and 1/4 women. Today, it's completely half men and women. So I really salute women for coming today. Women empowerment, some people think it's just a taboo, that we're just talking about women empowerment because it's popular. It is a popular issue because there are problems arising from not empowering women. And I want to reiterate on what Dima said about the psychology. Dr. Carol Dweck, she's a psychologist at Stanford University. She is specialized on mindset psychology. And she basically says that when we raise our kids, we usually keep telling the girls that they're smart and good. So they developed a fixed mindset that they're smart and good, so they don't try hard because they're smart and good. Whereas when we talk to our boys, young boys, and we keep telling them to try harder, so they keep trying harder. So they develop a non-fixed mindset or a growth mindset. So this transits to them through their entire life. This is why you see when women joining the workforce, many of them have high IQs, but they really lack the ability of, if I may say, the EQs, which is the emotional intelligence, which you basically really need. It works hand in hand with IQ. Emotional intelligence is your ability to manage your emotions, ability to manage other people's emotions, and to put them at the right context to, work around situations, because you don't have to be only smart, you have to be intelligent in how to talk to others, how to deal with problems, diffuse conflicts. Women empowerment is an issue in Saudi Arabia, and the media has been focusing on, I would say, the least parts of it. We have 57 of our undergraduates are actually females, and it doesn't really get highlighted by the media. The growing labor economy is for women. If you ask most of the men here, what's your first choice of hiring? They would say, I would hire a woman, because women are more productive than men. I'm a woman, so I can say a lot about women. But it's real. It's real, because I think as Saudi women, we have that edge that we want to prove ourselves. And if you ask any woman, I would take any job. But the problem is when they reach a leadership position, it's a status quo all around the world. So building networks. We just saw a video about Qiyadat Misk, which is a brilliant program. I was honored to be part of this program. Qiyadat is basically a program that aims to train young female leaders across Saudi Arabia, trying to really identify those hidden female leaders, highlighting them, giving them a bonus training, mentoring them, coaching them. A lot of women really need hand-holding, not because they're weak, but that they haven't developed that mindset of growth. They need somebody guiding them, supporting them. Women networks, I know in some countries it's dying, or people are calling for only, professional networks, but I think we still have a gap in Saudi Arabia, and that gap could be really filled by having women networks, women caring for other women, women mentoring other women, women guiding other women. That doesn't mean that men cannot participate, and I really say it with good heart. I've been supported by a lot of good men. So this is not a feminist talk, but it's reality talk.
And it's a shame whenever that happens. Am I allowed to say this? Because I've met many Saudi men and many Saudi women, and I'm on a plane tonight, so I can say this, I think. A lot of the women are smarter than the men, in my experience. Can we take some questions? Do people have questions they would like to ask? My friend here on the front row is the brave man who's prepared to ask a question of this strong panel of women.
Hello everyone, I would like to thank the women on the stage for taking the time to talk to all of us. My name is Abdul Majid Al-Saoud, and my question is, how can we as young men help create a positive environment for women in the workplace, where women feel empowered and feel that they can reach their full potential? Thank you.
Do you want to take this one?
Well, I can take that one. It's going back to give what you have been given. So the art of sharing and opening the doors and the opportunity. Now, as Nof mentioned about the female networking, now I do believe that every female, rather than having a mentor, she needs a sponsor. And a sponsor are from her fellow colleagues, and opening the doors and letting her in to be part of his success. So fostering that environment of sharing, giving back, and giving the courage and the enablement that, well, we can do it together as partners rather than competitors. That will give more lifting and self-esteem for the females to be more encouraged to open up and give more. So that's an opinion. No?
Yeah, well, I think, as Dima said, mentoring, when you work in an environment, in a mixed environment, and you have a female colleague, be nice to them. Try to include them in the plans that you're doing. I felt it, I've been through it. I've been in a lot of leadership positions where I was outcasted, and I get to know what's happening at the end of it. So I always felt that I'm left out, and I'm always trying to speed up and catch up. So treat women as you want to be treated. Always try to put yourself in her shoe. I know it's going to be difficult, but not literally. But try to always think, what do women go through? What are the difficulties that they're going through? And there are a lot. Women don't have just one job. Women have 3 jobs. She's a working person. She's a full working person like you. She's a full working mother. Even while she's working, she still is a mom, so she takes care of her kids even away. Most men practice their fatherhood after or once they get back from home. And then the third, an important job here in the Middle East, being a wife. So 3 jobs in one. So try to think of that.
Sabrina, who were your mentors? Whose shoulders do you stand on? Were they men or women or both? And just talk about that.
I'd say a lot of men, when it comes to, like, my advisor is a male. We have a lot of female graduate students. I have a good mix, but it technically, if in the field you're in, it happens to right now be that there are more guys than girls, then, like, it's probably going to be a lot of male mentors.
And what did they do? What did they do that was really important that got you to where you are now?
I mean, I think the thing is I never feel like they're doing anything special because I am female. I mean, I just feel like, I mean, it's empowering too, to not feel different in the sense that, like, any criticism I get isn't because I'm a girl, or it's because I can be better, like that type of thing. It's like, you don't
that's interesting.
Feel...
So actually, one of the things is that you are criticized just the same as anyone else, challenged just the same as anyone else.
I feel so. I mean, I think that also it's believing that that's so. There's a part where whether or not it's accurate, I think it's good to be a little bit more on the naive side and think that, like if someone's judging you, then you can be better, because it's easy enough to be better rather than to just use any excuses that you can have, because there are a lot of times where maybe it actually is that. But I mean, my parents are very supportive of me. They've always encouraged me to just do whatever, and I think that's been great. And in the workplace, just got to learn.
And Sandy, talk about that from your perspective. How are women being supported or not being supported in Myanmar?
In Myanmar. Okay, so first of all, for me, it's like women empowerment is like closing the gender gap as tight as possible, and giving us the like equal opportunities in the major area like politics and healthcare, education, and things like that. So now it's like we occupy the population like more than half. Like 60% of the population are women. So now it's like women plays an important role in politics too. There are a lot of women parliament in political areas, and also in the teachers and also tech industry. But for me, I still feel like some unconscious bias in my experience, because I'm working in tech field, and also I'm also leading a technical digital marketing agency. So what I feel is like, because since I'm a woman and also I am a Asian leader, so people think like I'm not very capable enough. So, and also sometimes like, because there is like male-dominated industry, when they talk about like CEO, they recognize like, it's a woman CEO. It shouldn't be that way, because in the name CEO is like, that CEO, it shouldn't be women. Women CEO is like something different for them. So women are very shy actually back in Myanmar. I'm also shy. And also we have still underlying concept that men are a superior gender to us. So but we are hindering ourselves sometimes too. And also, but I think more like Myanmar women they are now opening up, and if it would be great is all of us, men or government or nation itself is like how do you say, giving us enabling environment that allow us to discover our full potential. That's my opinion.
Another question. Over here, where's the microphone? One of the women in the audience. Great, go for it, on the left hand. Why don't we take 2 or 3 questions, if we can, just from across the sort of middle row here. I'm trying to see where the microphone is.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shahid Abu Jawad and I come from New Zealand. I actually have something burning to say while everyone's here before I ask my question. And that is about leadership, women's empowerment, and youth empowerment in particular. So while yesterday we were talking about youth empowerment, empowering youth, supporting youth, I asked a leader here about something, and he said to me, I told him, would you like me to introduce myself first, and then we can talk about whether it's possible or not. And he said, well, everyone thinks they're special, and sorry, you're not my priority. So I just want to give a message to every single one of everyone in this room that transparency and being humble is the only way, in my opinion, to empower youth and women, which are the 2 sectors that we need to concentrate the most on. That's just something I needed to say. So my question to the panel is, I feel like everyone in general, whether it's a woman or a man, we certainly, especially for leaders, we have a message that we give ourselves sometimes when we're going through hardship or challenges, or even to give us motivation. So what is the message that you give yourself in times that you feel that you need that push? For example, when I face challenges, I just say, this time, everything is written for me, and I have a purpose, and this is where I'm going. So what's your message that you give yourself to motivate yourself?
It's a great question. Can we just take a couple more questions before we... Can we bring the microphone up further front here?
Hi, thank you for taking my question. My name is Fida Al Hassan, and my question is, one of the biggest challenges that women face today is how to juggle between being a full-time employee and a dedicated mother. Based on my observation, I feel that most of the women that I know tend to take 2 to 3 breaks from being a full-time employee during the first couple of years. Most of the women tend to take 2 to 3 years of their lives, dedicating their lives to caring and nurturing their firstborn child. And I feel that this is a couple of time that is being lost. I mean, definitely it doesn't put them ahead of the game between them and their male counterparts or male colleagues. So how do we solve that challenge? Thank you.
Great. Well, let's have another question, if we can. Okay, a question from a man over here. Another brave man. Go.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Nawaf Shatri, and you've spoken a lot about empowerment based on networking with women and stuff like that. But how can we improve empowerment based on like relations in the family? I have a younger sister, and I would like to know how I can nurture her skills and help her thrive in the professional environment, rather than watching me and my brother on the sidelines grow in the professional environment.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Let's just go, let's do those, let's take the last 2 questions first, if you like, and whoever wants to pick them up. So I think it's a really good question. The dynamics within the family, absolutely crucial in working out, in thinking about how to empower women. And then a similar question on the same theme about being a mother and a worker. How do you manage that? Any one of you can take that. Go for it.
Well, I guess women are gifted for being mothers and actually working at the same time. At the end of the day, family matters, and we're all proud that women make conscious choice to actually focus on their family as well. But there are policies that should be embedded to ensure that when a woman takes a leave to take care of her kids, that her job is secured. Talking about Saudi Arabia, I think a lot has been done to ensure that, with the maternity leave, with the hours of nursing, and also laws that have been actually ruled out and was not really mandated. It was ruled out about 10 years ago to establish nurseries in companies, organizations, whether government or private entities, that actually have nurseries to take care of the kids, so the kids would be next to their mothers, especially at the early childhood. So creating these policies and making sure that you're trying to create an ecosystem that would support women and would let her actually give, because it's part of her nature is to give, and she's much closer giving to her family. So ensuring professional giving and also family giving.
Well, I always get that question. Work-life balance, and how do you become a professional as well as juggling 3 kids at home, and 2 of them are twins. So, and what do I always answer is that I don't believe in work-life balance. There is no balance. It depends on the priority of the situation. So, and having the support system at home. And here's where I always say that, again, going back to Abdul Majid's question, is what can you do is become a real father. A mother is not the only giver in the family. So having a partner, having the right partner that will support you throughout your journey, as well as your support system, that will always help in striving and in achieving your goals. If I can answer also the motivation question.
I'm going to come back to it.
Okay.
So that's great. Thank you. Sabrina, what?
Okay, well, I've kind of avoided both because I'm an only child, and I chose work over life. I probably, as an outsider trying to assess what would be the best thing to do in those situations, which I'm not in, I'd say like having affordable like childcare like right away, or as soon as like possible, would really even the playing field, because a lot of the grad students I know, when they have young children, it's the guys who are the grad student and their wife is at home for a little bit while they have the kid. And so it would be very difficult if I were where I am right now and had to be in that situation. So either changing perceptions on why after a certain amount of time when you actually need to like be right there with the kid, you can't have somebody else or the husband take care of the child more than the woman. As an outsider, I would think that would be a better change of perception, where you have to be the like mom instead of like what you were saying with having the other parents be more involved right away. So it's not just like the one burden. And then as far as having siblings do different activities, one thing I noticed sometimes, like I had a friend in high school where he did all of these like Bs, like geography B or whatnot, and the sister ended up not having to go through the same set of, I guess, competitions, and maybe just making sure that whatever opportunities you went through, your sibling also goes through. It's not just like, oh, we had one kid do that, good, we can check that off. I think that's somehow important.
Okay, great.
Yeah, let me answer the family part. I don't have family yet, but I'm thinking quite often what would happen to my business if I happen to get married or have a children. So because in my country it's like the woman have to take care of children, cooks, and all the home responsibility. So I think that is also challenging for me, because having a company is having a kids too. So I think to solve this problem is like, we should have like a supportive partner, and also just as you said, like we don't have to change the perception of women have to take care of the family alone. So it should be like, assign tasks with a partner and, juggling with the business and the family.
And let's just finish off with some inspiration, and that question that we had early on. What's the message that you give yourself when the challenges seem too much, when the countervailing forces just seem to be continually in your way? We'll start and we'll come back down through here.
Okay,
what's your inspirational message?
Inspirational message as a woman? Okay, so because because my problem is like sometimes I'm really have my end determined by myself, and also because I'm really doing the very big things or impact in my country. But sometimes I don't believe in myself. That happens a lot because why did I fail? What if people judge me as a woman doing all these things? So my inspirational message, and also I am the eldest one in my family too. So when I started this business, like my mom didn't want to agree me because you should do like 9 to 5 pay job because the business is quite challenging, and also you are a girl. Sometimes you will, someday you will get married and you will be taken care of your home. You don't need to be a businesswoman, things like that. So that time I'm thinking like because nobody believes in me. So first thing is I have to believe in myself. Forget about all these women and gender thing, and you are just a human. So you have to do things that is. That you have been dreaming for a long time, and also sometimes you have to forget that you are women, and so you just try as a man, work hard as a man, and sometimes decide as a man. Sometimes you can be a man too.
Believe in yourself. Sabrina, briefly, your inspirational message.
When I want to motivate myself to do more, I think what have I done lately? But when it comes to, I guess, the optimism, it's more like if there's a particular task I want to do and I haven't been able to do it, and I see that somebody else has done it, then if they can do it, I can do it. So it's more like that.
They can do it, I can do it. Okay, Noof.
I always actually recite a verse of the Quran. إِنَّا خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. We have created mankind in struggle. So this is part of life.
Dima.
Well, what really inspires me every day and makes me moving, and I want you to leave this room with these 5 tips that I always tell myself, is that my dream is always valid. So I have to dream, and when I dream, it has to be big. And when I fail, I have to fail fast and try again and never stop trying. The second is always be optimistic and see the half full of the glass. So when I find an obstacle, I look for the opportunity from this obstacle and this black hole that is in front of me. Third is that being humble. As one of the crowd said, in being humble and always striving for more. So whenever I see what I accomplished, it's not enough, and I have to do more. And last but not least is that always be obsessed with learning. Always learn from the people that you are circled with the people that you see. And most importantly, as females, never change what you believe and who you are for anything.
What an extraordinary and exciting conversation to have here. And I want to thank my panel, and I want to thank all of you, both women and men, for being here and taking part in this, because this is an issue not just for women, it's an issue for men as well. And leave here knowing that by empowering women, we empower Saudi Arabia's economy and make Saudi Arabia ready to face the future.